building and, more importantly, reinforcing DigCom Designs HO scale paper container models. Bob Johnson with PK&W Railroad coming at you with another video. This time it's another paper container video. And I know what you're thinking, not another paper model video, Bob. But unfortunately there's probably a couple more in the pipeline. I'm a freelance model railroader, and so I want to have some background container models of my containers, my shipping company, my railroad, and not the real world railroads that are depicted by DigCom Designs and Team Track models. So an upcoming project will be making freelance paper container models. Additionally, I'm going to make some paper structures, paper model structures, so those will probably be another video. But for now, here we go with building and reinforcing the DigCom Designs HO shipping containers. Now there are 3 stacks, and again they only make 53-foot domestic containers in their kind of 9-stack, 3 high 3 wide models, and domestic containers can only be stacked 3 high. But of course, if you've seen shipping container yards, you know that they get stacked a lot higher than 3. So I'm definitely going to have to do something like that, and they're going to have to be reinforced. I tried reinforcing the 9-stack models from DigCom with 1/2-inch foam core, but it was very hard to get straight cuts, perpendicular cuts in that material, so I don't recommend that. The 4mm foam core is probably the easiest stuff to use. I did make a container using mat board as the core, kind of to support it. That worked fine, and it was kind of heavy. The mat board was heavier than the foam core, believe it or not. But I really like the way the foam core comes out. I think it's a little bit easier to work with. So that's what I recommend, and that's what you're going to see in this video. Please give me a thumbs up. Give me a comment down below. Subscribe if you care to.
All right, now that I've got the containers weathered a little bit, I'm going to start cutting them out. And I want to show you a few things about these DigCom Designs. Now you'll note they have little guide marks here, these little red dots in the circles. I don't know how easy that is to see. There you can see 2 of them in that corner there. And those are for lining up your straight edge to make the cut. Now the important thing to keep in mind is that all of these are not outside cuts, and so you don't want to cut all the way through the cardstock. This is an outside cut, so I'm going to cut all the way through the cardstock here. However, here where the bottoms of the containers start, this is not a cut. This is actually just a score mark. So I'm going to line my straight edge up the same way, but I am going to take the back edge of my knife, and I'm just going to score. Moderate pressure. You just have to figure out what's required. That's it. That's really the one fold, other than the fold for these tabs around the bottom here. That's the only scoring you have to do. Otherwise, I'm just going to cut out all the way around the perimeter.
So here is a DigCom Design container that's been completely cut out and scored, and I'm going to build this without reinforcement so that you can see how quickly these go together when you do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it at the previously scored lines. Fold this tab up,
And then the first thing to do is to glue this long tab. I'm going to use the gel adhesive that I recommend in my paper modeling basics video. Just going to line that up on the bottom edge and press it down. And then there you go. You see you have your basic square shape. Just going to crease it a little bit more. So now I'm just going to insert these ends. Just apply a little glue. I'm going to spread that with my finger just to make sure that it's reaching the outer edge, and then just going to pop that in like so. Doesn't want to stay in there, so there we go. Now we'll do the other end. Once again, I'll spread the glue out with my finger, and then just fold these tabs in. Insert that, make sure it gets lined up pretty well, and it's basically done. All I need to do is to darken the edges here with my marker, and it's ready to go in a matter of a couple of minutes. Okay, so here is another DigCom Designs container that's been cut out and scored, and I'm going to show you how I assemble these before I put the foam core insert in there. So again, I'm just going to fold it on the creases. This is not going to go as fast as the unsupported, unreinforced container. That is really fast, because here we have to leave one side open, and I leave this flap open, the one that does not have any tabs on it. So that means attaching all of the other tabs. So again, I'm going to use my gel glue. I guess I'll use the pointy end of the applicator so I don't get it all over my workbench. And I'll just put some on this tab here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to put some on this tab here as well at the end, so I can do two containers of the container simultaneously. Now I'm going to spread that out with my finger so that it goes up to the edge. And then I'm just going to fold that tab back in, line it up, and press it down. I'll do the same on the other side. Make sure it's lined up fairly closely. Then I'll fold the bottom of the container up, and I'll press this tab in as well.
And that's it. The box is now ready to receive the foam core inserts.
Okay, so here is how I recommend that you build a foam core center for the 40-foot containers from DigCom Designs. So I've got 4 pieces here. I'm not going to do anything on the ends because I think the thickness of the foam core around the perimeter will be enough to brace the container just fine. So I've got 4 pieces of foam core here. They're 139 millimeters long. And so notice how I've constructed the container. There's one flap left open, and it's a flap without any tabs on it. So you want to drop. So that means these are the sides of the containers. So I've cut 2 pieces. These larger pieces here are the exact same size as the sides of the container. The sides being the top and bottom of the box that I've built here. So I'm just going to drop this large piece in. I'm going to put some glue stick on here. I've found that putting regular glue on the sides of on the pieces of foam core and attaching them to the sides of the container does cause some dimpling and some disformation of the sides of the container. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to drop this down in there and press it against the side of the container, the bottom of my box. Now I'm going to glue these. This is the bottom and top of the container. These are both the same size, the bottom and the top of the container. They're 139 millimeters by roughly 18 millimeters. Now these measurements are not exactly precise. Depending on exactly how tightly you glue the box, it might be at half a millimeter off. So you may have to trim some things to make them fit. So here I'm going to put some glue stick on the outside of this, where it'll stick to the bottom of the container. But I'm going to take my paper glue and I'm going to put a small bead of that, just do a little bit of that along here. I don't want too much to come leaking out and get onto the surface of the container. And then this is the glue stick side, so I'm just going to drop this in here and I'm going to push it up against the side of the container and down against the existing foam core in the bottom of the box. Okay, so that's because I'm going to drop, and notice that's short of the top because I'm going to drop this piece of foam core in on top once I've done the other side. So now I'm just going to do the other side, which is actually the top of the container, in exactly the same way. Glue stick on this side, a little bit of paper glue on this side, and then I'm just going to drop that down in there, and I'm going to push the top of the container against the glue stick, and that should dry nicely. Now for the last side of the container, I'm going to put glue stick on the top surface here, and then I'm going to put a little glue across the edges of the sides of my box inside there, which are actually the top and bottom of the container. So we'll just put some glue stick on here. And then I'm going to put a few dots of glue in here. It doesn't have to be a lot. I hope you can see that. Now I've got glue stick up, and I'm just going to drop that inside. So now we have a nice core. Now don't squeeze in too much on the sides, just at this point it really needs to dry. You can so saying I've already messed mine up a little bit. No, I haven't. And there, I'm just going to let that dry for a little while before I close it up. Okay, it's been a few minutes, so now I'm just going to glue down the now remember, this is still a little bit tacky from the glue stick, which is great. The surface, I'm just going to put a few dabs of glue on here, which I'm going to spread out with my fingers. You want to make sure there's glue along the edge, the outer edge of these flaps. And then I'm just going to fold down this side of the container. Make sure everything lines up. And then there we have it. Pretty solid, a pretty solid little container. I'm going to put this flap that I just glued down on my mat, and I'm going to put a weight on top of it to keep it pressed down while it dries for a few minutes.
Now the process for doing the 9 stacks is pretty similar, except that you need to do end plates because of the size of the model to reinforce the ends. So here's a picture where I've dropped the first side into the stack, and then I do the bottom of the container as well as the top of the container. So there's 3 sheets of foam core in here now. Now the other difference is also that I'm applying a weight. In this case, a child's block is being glued onto the bottom to provide a little more weight and stability for the model when it's done. Here I am putting the end plate on the 9 stack, and here's the other end plate installed, and the top is installed just like the 40-foot container example. There you have it. There's how I build and reinforce DigCom Designs containers, as well as their 9 stack container models in HO scale. This is Bob Johnson signing off until next time. Keep on modeling.